7-year-long consulting career, consulting Fortune 500 companies. He had worked with 188 of the top 500, and he had the who's who of most of them that he was working with, and he ended up just basically telling how um, he was in Taiwan or somewhere over in Asia working with a really big client, and was going to be there for a few weeks. And his wife one time called him up and just said, "Hey, I think we're supposed to move." And they had a house in this other city in another state, and they were like, "I think we need to be there." And he was like, "Well, pray about it. Let's figure it out. Let's see what God wants us to go do, And so they both got the yes answer, left, went and packed it up and sold their other house in Arizona, moved, and like not 30 days later, they were in different circles, and he's a very faith-based individual. And so your comment, as I'm thinking about his story, and I don't need to retell all the details of his story, but he basically said, I learned in coming back. So he went and served a 3-year mission in Ecuador. And he said, I came back from that, and my business, as I'm picking up the pieces and trying to put it all back together, he literally walked away from multiple 7-figure worth of income for himself. And he said, as I have now been putting this business back, like I've just had a lot of ahas that the individual isn't separate or different from the business. It's like, if we think it is and we operate that it is, we're going to have a lot of problems. And when they're all in sync and everything's in full alignment, that's where we find harmony and joy and happiness in life. And it was kind of fun to hear him. He's a gray hair. I'm a no hair, but he's probably got me by 15 years or more. And it was really fun to just hear him talk about this experience that he had with his life. And so I love that you're all in. I think that's awesome. That's how I try to live my life. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah. So for those who just, you kind of dropped in the middle of a conversation that we started, we just pushed record because it was just going interesting places. But we were just talking about the importance of having a synergistic business with Scripture and Bible, and the more aligned. I just get tired of some of these words that just get drastically overused in the marketplace: authenticity, alignment, all that. But the more directly aligned your business is, we just had a 3-day event here this past week, and that was the core of this, was an identity shift. It's about who are you now, who are you becoming, and the goals and objectives that you have, the mission, the people you're called to serve. Is that aligned with who you're becoming and who's coming through you, right? That's where we're trying to drive everything. Our core, our thesis in our business is that power comes from authority, and authority comes from God. And your purpose is the greatest power you have, right? So if you are living in your purpose, you're going to do the greatest possible things you can do versus doing things in your own power. And our business exists to equip you to be able to monetize that purpose.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right. So that's the jam. Everything else is just business.
Yeah. But Jim, that is the essence. I mean, I truly believe, I don't know where you want to go with this, but I truly believe that the gifts that I've been given, I'm not smart, I'm not brilliant at a lot of things, but the things that I'm really good at, I can serve a lot of people and do a lot of good and help people in ways that they don't get from somebody who might be only smart or whatever. You know what I mean? So that's what I've learned in my short 51 years of figuring life out, is that use the talents that have been given to you to go do good. And it really makes a difference for everybody around you.
for sure. No, without question. And I think there's an interesting perspective in the marketplace of businesses that are like kingdom businesses, and I didn't want to necessarily label that because then I think at some level, and I'm not making other people wrong, I just don't want it to be like, look at me, I'm on business purpose for God. I don't want it to be viewed that way or
Right.
assessed that way. I want it to be powered that way.
Yeah. And that's the right approach, right? Um, anyway, I
Yeah.
think you nailed it, because nobody, there's some people that don't have faith or don't believe in deity or whatever, right? And so for me, I just like to be kind to everybody and try to find ways to serve everyone, no matter who they are or what they believe.
Right.
If I can do that, I feel like I'm doing what I'm put here to do, you know?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the journey
Yeah.
that you've been on, and you've had some successful businesses. You're in the middle of some really great successful ventures right now,
Yeah.
and you know, we've got other podcasts that talk about systems and structure and strategy and tactics and scaling and exiting and all of that fun stuff. But this Legacy Without Limits podcast is designed to talk about, like, who are you becoming on this journey? What lessons and wisdom have you gained? What things did you think were true that as you have attained success have realized are not true? Let's just kind of dive into the reality behind the scenes. What mountains, what summits did you attain where you thought, ooh, I
Yeah.
thought it was going to be something, and you decided, man, that wasn't worth the climb at all. you know
I think, uh, yeah, I'll just give you the 30-second version so your audience kind of knows a little bit of background history
Yeah.
on me. Um, and then I want to answer that question, and I might need you to redirect me, but
Sure.
I have done a lot of different things. I initially thought that I was going to be a veterinarian or a doctor, a human doctor, one or the other. I love medicine. When I was going through high school and college, I thought I'm going to be a doctor. And so had my sights fixed on doing that and went to school and was taking, 20 to 22 credits a semester for, two big long semesters, the fall and then the winter. And then in the summertime, I was like, I got to go work because I got to earn money because I don't have any because I grew up poor. And I was like, I got to go figure this out and and make it all work, And I started knocking doors for a living in California, down in Orange County, selling pest control door to door. Hardest thing I'd ever done, from a work standpoint.
Amen.
And I was like, well, if it pays well, then what's the difference between, working at the vet clinic and doing this? And so I knew that I could do better. And I ended up doing really well. My first summer, I made like 30 grand as a college student in 3.5 months. I was like, okay, well, that'll see me through 1 year. Paid for all my schooling, housing, food, vehicle, all the stuff. And I was like, wow, okay. I ended up doing that for almost 10 years. But after the third or fourth year, somewhere in there, I shifted gears and I realized I want to go get my MBA. I don't want to go do a degree in medicine. And so I went and had a conversation with the director, and he said, go get some work experience. And that's when I realized I'll go just start my own company because I know how to do this. And I hired 40, college students my same age and put them to work and took them to Atlanta. And we did the same thing and added lots of accounts and grew that. And I ended up selling that business. And then I jumped into another business where we were putting in scoreboards in high schools, invested a lot into that, about $1 million. And by the time 07, 08 came around, that business came to a screeching halt and we had to shelf it and go to the next thing, which was hard because I lost everything that I had and had to start over, which really sucked because I thought whatever I touch turns to gold. Well, it turns out I can't predict, a recession. So that was a hard pill to swallow. I started a mobile marketing, like a software as a service texting business after that, and ended up putting on some fun clients. Those clients grew and grew. I found myself going to a bigger market out of state from where I lived to grow, and I plugged into an executive level networking group, which led me to eventually starting that where in my own, you know, community and my own market here where I live. And I hadn't been connected. I married a gal, and part of the deal to stay married was to live where she wanted to live. And I was totally fine with that, but I had to go make my own rain. And so I figured it out and started this other group while I was growing my software business. And lo and behold, I found out that I really loved that. All of these things that I had done led me to this passion that I have of being a connector and helping executive decision makers connect with other executive decision makers to do business together, or to, find solutions to the problems they had or whatever. So I did that from about 2010 to about 2019, sold that business, jumped in, did a few other things, but eventually came back to what I loved and what I was good at, and realized that's where I need to spend my time. And we created a community, a mastermind group, different than an executive networking community, to really build deep, meaningful relationships and solve problems at the same time. And that has been going well for the local group. And along the way, I had somebody tap me and say, John, come help us build a very high net worth mastermind group. Turns out later, through the process of discovery, I realized it's not about the money. It's not about the high net worth. It's about the highly qualified individuals that we're looking for. And it's about putting people with similar profiles together to help them collaborate and peer advise and solve for similar issues that they're all dealing with. And that's kind of how we pivoted to what I'm doing now. And so to answer your question, what did I love or didn't love? Some of that is, I used to think that I could do anything. and I also realized over the years that having lots of different business partners, sometimes having a business partner is amazing when there's a really good fit, and other times they're a complete headache when they're not a fit and the values don't align. I found that there were times when I couldn't be myself. I couldn't speak freely in a partnership, and that was hard. All the things you've learned, that you got to stand up, you got to speak up, you got to do the hard, even when it is. And I've learned a lot of different things through the school of hard knocks. I've had some good successes. I've had some colossal failures, and just continuing to grow. Everything that I've done in my past helps me with the next thing that I do. And that's been really valuable.
Yeah. I find that so much of the growth path is just layering one lesson on top of the other. And that's really the biggest difference that I've seen. Well, there's a lot of differences, of course, but one that is very common and unified to most people who are winning at high levels is you learn, you stand on the mistakes you've made, you stand on the mistakes of others, whereas other people just get run over by them. A mistake can take you out, or it can just literally be like a slingshot effect. It's like, as far as it knocks you down is as far as it can launch you forward, if you prepare it, if you receive it that way and take the wisdom from the lessons learned.
I 100% agree with that. And I've had both.
Yeah.
I've experienced both of those. And there's been times when, I think for me, the times when I've had a lot of success, I kind of was like, God, I got this, we're good. thanks. And then the times when I've had, really tough times, lost $1 million, didn't have the ability to put, a lot on the table for my family. It was like, all right, I really need you. And,
Mhm.
and, God really has taught me a lot in the process. I'm super grateful for the lessons that I've learned. There's been a lot of times when it's been blatantly obvious that it was he that was the one that saved, right? Um, that there wasn't anybody else or anything else, Prayer, answer, like almost immediately sometimes. And you're like, yeah, it had to be you. Yeah, for sure. And other times where you're like, you just have to sort through it and figure it out. Life is fun and hard and everything in between, and our perspective matters a lot. To your point, if we're not sour, we can really benefit others and be benefited the most by our circumstances. Yeah.
Where do you see like ethical tensions come into play? Because that's an area whenever money is involved, which is what business is, regardless of a lot of people try to deny it, right? It's like money's a big catalyst, and it can bring the best out of people, it can bring the worst out of people. And as a leader, when you're providing for other people, you're providing solutions for other people. I don't think we often really grasp the ripple effect of how we're impacting people. So when you're leading people and growing companies, is there ever the opportunity to color the lines, cross the line, because the end justifies the means, or is everything always, let's make sure we're legal, ethical, moral, no matter what? There's no shortcuts allowed. There's no cutting corners. Like when is it okay? When is it not? And are you and where does our modeling come into that?
What a great question. Nothing like getting right to the heart of, some real dilemmas that I think most human beings at some point in their life are having to figure out. I love that question. Um, I'll just echo what you said. Money is an amplifier. It's not anything more than that. Those that have a lot of resources, you see how good they really are, or you see that they're not really that great. And I get the chance to work with a lot of people that have a lot of affluence and influence, um, sometimes based on position and power and authority and whatever. And sometimes their influence isn't so much based on relationships and true substance. It's just, I'm in charge and you're going to do it my way. And so this is a topic really near and dear. There have been times in my life, Jim, when I've always tried to do the right thing or be good and do what was right. But there's times in my life when I cross that boundary, um, in the sense that, it's like when you're knocking doors for pest control, you can get to the next door faster if you walk on somebody's grass, right? Just cut across the grass instead of walking the long way all the way around to the sidewalk. The only time it matters on some of those kinds of things is when nobody wants you walking on their grass and they see you and they get mad. But I'm like, well, doesn't the guy that mows the lawn walk on the grass? Like, is it really that we can't walk on the grass, or you just don't want me to walk on? Like, some of those kinds of things, I even had to battle when I was, 30 years ago, knocking doors. I guess my position is now is I used to think it's, sometimes if it doesn't really matter, if it's not going to matter in the next 5 minutes or the next 5 years, like, oh well, right? There are times when I go 5 over the speed limit because I need to get there sooner than later.
Right.
For me, I find myself going, yeah, the end justifies the means in some ways when I'm not doing something overly blatant. But when it comes to money, to your point, I'm pretty cut and dry on some of those really critical matters. When it comes to values, real moral, you know, positions, like, yeah, no, some of those we just won't budge on. We're just true. They're so important that we're like, yeah, when it comes to money, we're going to always pay. Like if I've ever made a commitment to somebody verbally, and I have, just in the recent past, that I'm gonna pay them for doing a task or a job. I don't have a legal contract, in writing. Maybe I do. Maybe I just gave them my word. I'm always going to take the high road, even if it costs me, and I don't feel like I should have to pay. I'm going to pay it.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I
We've
just-
had
that's the only
challenges.
thing I have is my reputation. So
Right. Yeah. Legal is one thing, ethical is a different one. Like legal,
yeah,
ethical, moral, that term gets kind of put out there a lot. I think I say that a lot. But when I was in mortgage, we blurred the lines a lot because it was legal,
yeah,
borderline ethical, certainly not moral, some of the things we were doing with people's loans. But the law allowed us to do it. So we weren't in violation that way. But we were putting people into some loans that we knew had a high likelihood that if anything happened with rates, they were going to lose their home.
yeah,
But we got paid good money to do it. And we were just, man, we were part of the capsizing of the activities in 2008 because we had a long line of people that we put into these situations. But we justify it because it was legal. But I think even though in our, deep down, we knew we were doing wrong.
yeah.
But it was it was hard.
I think that what you just said is the answer to everybody's true question. Like that little voice that we all have, right?
Yeah.
Call it a conscience, call it whatever you want to call it. When it says you should do this or you should not do that, if you always listen to that voice, I think you'll always be found with a clear conscience, and you'll be happy, and you will have done, what you were supposed to do, right? That's the judge that I use now.
Yeah.
And I find that is really helpful. And there's times still that I don't always listen to every single prompting or voice or whatever, but I try to a lot more than I used to.
We've had some conversations. We're teaching our clients how to sell to the affluent, how to sell premium, because I think in this marketplace, people that are product market is moving one way or the other. I think if you're selling to the middle market, we just see too much evidence that is not a growing marketplace. It's a shrinking marketplace. And so you have to either be able to sell premium or get really good at mass volume. And what are you seeing? What do you recognize when, work being surrounded by affluent people? If people are thinking about how to approach, how to be useful, how to be in a circle of affluent people, and hold your own expertise, even though this person may know a lot more than you about your about business, but that doesn't mean that they aren't interested in your support.
Yeah. I find myself in some of that space sometimes because we're constantly trying to build relationships with CEOs that are doing 20 million in annual revenue up to under $1 billion, right? And anybody in there, we're sifting through, just trying to build as many relationships as we can. We approached this, and I'm not saying it's right. I'm still learning. But my approach is we start with the trusted relationships that we have, the people that we know that trust me, that know my heart, that know that I'm always going to keep my commitments, those kind of people. We start there and we find ways to serve them so that they would be willing to open a door for us into the type of people that we want to meet that maybe we don't have a relationship with yet. I don't know if it's the best model. sometimes because I'm not overly techy and I'm not super savvy of how to use all the tech, I'm just still doing it the old fashioned way of trying to earn each relationship with some trust and having a conversation. I'll get an introduction. A friend of mine might say, "Hey, you guys should know each other." We go have a conversation because they have a trusted relationship with my friend. That allows me to start to have a conversation. And sometimes we really click and really hit it off. In almost all cases, I'm always looking for how can I serve them before this call is over? Like, what is the name? What's the one thing that's coming to my mind of who they need to meet or who would be a solution or an opportunity for them? And I try to do my best. I'll probably do 20 to 30 introductions every week. That's a lot of introductions. It takes a lot of time. Usually it takes me at least 5 minutes or more because I don't have tech. I just manually put those together either via text message or email or something. But having done that, to one degree or another, it's not always been 20 to 30. Sometimes it's been 10 to 15 a week, but I've been doing that for almost 15 years.
Right.
And over time, what I found is I've got a pretty large network of people that know, like, trust, and value me because I do things for other people when they don't expect it and they didn't have to pay for it. And for me, is it a waste? It could be viewed by some, what a waste of time. You're spending all this time helping everybody else and not helping yourself. And I guess I just disagree with some of that criticism because from my perspective, that method has been the thing that has helped me have the success. I'm getting into circles. I'm getting into, the type of people, this super high caliber audience, because I'm real. I'll just be straight. Like, I don't have anybody right now that I know, but can we have a follow-up conversation? Maybe I need to dig deeper. There's always something that will trigger in a conversation for me. Oh, now I know. But sometimes it doesn't happen in the first 30 minutes, And
Right.
so I have to look for ways to keep going with each new relationship to serve them. And then usually the ones where we really connect, then all of a sudden they're opening doors for me that I could have never opened for myself. And that is the fun of what I do, Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's great. And I have witnessed it myself, right? I think I just saw in my inbox that you had connected me to a couple of people today. I haven't a chance to dive into that, but I
No,
appreciate
it's
that.
good.
Right.
I hope you do, because one of them I think might be a really good connection. I had that conversation with him yesterday, and I was like, I knew I was talking to you today, and so I'm like, you came to my mind as I was learning about him and what he does, and I thought, you need to know. You need to know Grady. He's amazing. He's doing some pretty cool stuff, and he's super humble, but he's been really, really successful. I think you guys would hit it off, right? Those were the thoughts that were going through my mind as I was having this conversation. And I wanted to do that while I was thinking about it this morning and checking it off my list because I didn't get done last night. And that's just kind of how my world works. Is I fire off a lot of those.
Yeah, and that's been my experience serving. I get tired of all the labels, but I don't know how else we describe people. But
Yeah.
the affluent, millionaires and billionaires, successful people, investors, whatever you want to call them. We've been blessed to work with a lot of very successful people, and I just find overwhelmingly, like, I don't even understand the narrative in the marketplace of, billionaires are ruining the world and success. Like, man, every single successful person I know got there because they helped a lot of people and they love helping a lot of people. And more often than not, they're extremely accessible and humble and glad to help. I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many people will, when I text them, they respond. And there are times when I'm like, I don't even, it doesn't even make sense. Why would they respond? Just because they're a good person and they were interested, when we had a conversation. And, so it's just, you have to trust and believe the best in people. And that's usually what will show up. Just like if
Yeah.
you expect the opposite, that can often show up too, if that's what you expect, because you will put that into the conversation. You will somehow draw that out of them if that's what you expect.
Yeah. Law of attraction is an interesting thing. You look, you find what you're looking for, wherever, even when it's, the total outlier, you can still find it.
Yeah. So what's like right now as we get close to wrapping this up here? Um, what are you seeing? You're working with a lot of people that are innovators,
Yeah.
game changers that are really impacting the marketplace. And what things should people be thinking about as they are moving through 2026 and beyond, in terms of embracing opportunity, holding back, waiting for the right opportunity, et cetera? What kind of wisdom?
Yeah, I don't know that I can give a lot of economic wisdom. I'm thinking again about the conversation we had this morning with Tracy, and my goodness, he had some really fun things and insights that he shared with us. And one of the things that he said, because he touches a lot of global businesses on a regular basis, and it was really fun for me to hear what he had to say on this topic. And maybe I can just echo some of that. That there's this idea of culture and accountability, that if we can align, and again, yeah, some people hate that these buzzwords. I don't mean it to be that way, but I don't know how else to describe it. The English language is only limited. But you get congruent, or you're in alignment with the values, your own mission and vision and whatever. But sometimes we say, okay, but the end justifies the means in how we get there. Like, we have these goals, we need to grow by this much, per year, or we've got to cut by this much, this many million per year, or whatever the case is. And then if somehow, as you're working towards those goals, that you step on people and you go completely against the culture that you value to get to that result, you just ruined the result. Like, how do we affect change in a way that's really meaningful, both for the goals state objective, as well as for the process, the transformation of the for the customer, and for the internal customer, for the employees. And if all of that is in alignment and everything lines up, all of a sudden you're going to have a really sustainable trajectory of growth. And if you don't, life's going to keep being hard. And when we're accountable, he talked about accountability both as the result, but also the drive. Sometimes the drivers that we think are just drivers, if we look at them as part of the results of how we get there, that's part of it. So we're not going to step on people. We're not going to color outside the boundaries, because we value that. If that's in alignment and you're going towards this end result or goal, and it all kind of flows and you're working through it, practicing every day, then when you get to that result, it's not only just more meaningful and more significant, but you have more buy-in from all the people involved. It's just going to make you that much greater. And I love that message this morning, because I can see that with the things that we do sometimes, the things that I see other executives dealing with, whether it's AI, like one of the examples that he gave is everybody's dealing with AI, something or other, right? And we all have a little bit more transparency into the data, on a more regular basis. Sometimes it could be hourly, daily, monthly. We don't have to wait to the end of the year to do our employee feedback surveys. We could actually gather that up all along the way so that we can more quickly adjust to meet the demands in the market where it's at in the moment, as opposed to waiting till the end of the year. And I love some of those things that he shared, because I just see a lot of our people, they deal with all of that kind of stuff. Do I understand how to do it all? No, we get to be exposed to a lot of different industries and a lot of different concepts. And there's some industries that are just, they've got a mountain to climb before they're going to really solve, like as an industry, they've got to solve some pretty big challenges. But others are flying high, and their turn will come. And like everything just kind of goes through these cycles. We all get the highs and the lows, the roller coaster. So maybe I didn't answer your question, but I'm not, I don't have a really strong opinion in where I think the market's going. I'm not an economist. I don't know how this will play itself out. What I do know is that there's guidance and direction by a lot of people, a lot of good people that we can be surrounded by. Sometimes we aren't in the moment. Sometimes we're all alone. I see that with the people that we interact with.
Right.
The decision makers of the organizations trying to solve for things in isolation. And that is a really, really hard place to be, for sure. And if I understand correctly, your audience is a lot of those 3 million to 20 million executives or decision makers running companies doing that kind of annual revenue. And I think that there's a way that people can jump in or be plugged in to a peer group, or reach out to you or me or whatever and say, hey, who do you know? I just need a door opened. I need a connection. I need a lifeline. And there's a lot of really good people out there that would be more than willing to bend over backwards to a complete stranger and help. And you're like, well, show me the person, like, well, there's sometimes we have to do the work to get that figured out, but it's always there. I guess I would just want to reiterate that.
It is. It's without exception, every single person that I've interviewed on all of these podcasts around, legacy exit companies, people who are doing big things. Whenever I always try to find a way to say, well, what's the regret? What's the pain? Where's the missed opportunity? And I speak the same language. It's like, there isn't a missed opportunity. There's just another opportunity. There's always another opportunity. Like every single thing that happens to you is a door opening. Always. I don't even know how to not see them. That's all I ever see. Sometimes I see too many, but I always see doors and windows opening. I'm like, there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity. And the beauty is, excuse me, when you have a network of people that are experts at their craft, those opportunities, you don't just think about, that's an opportunity for me. You think, oh, that's an opportunity for John. This is an opportunity for Melinda. This is because you see what they're doing and you're like, it's immediate. Those two people need to know each other. This needs to happen. This is a great opportunity over here. And sometimes I can see it and you might not, because you're neck deep in something else.
Right.
But it's more suited for you than for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is exactly why I wanted you to have a conversation with Grady, because I'm like, I don't know where that's going to go. And Braxton, he is just, he's doing this kindness business that is amazing. And somebody I just thought, I don't know if there's any synergy here, but there could be, and you ought to know him because he's doing some cool stuff. Awesome. two new connections of mine as of yesterday. So anyway, proximity is important, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If
you know people, the different thing is you just have to ask, but you have to ask with intention and purpose, and not just, if all you're ever doing is asking, then that gets worn out.
Yeah. Yeah, I liken it to remember when in Seven Habits, Stephen Covey talks a little bit about the bank account or emotional bank account. And if you're always putting in deposits, then every now and again you can do a withdrawal.
Yep.
But if there's nothing in there and you try to do a withdrawal, you bankrupt the relationship.
Yeah.
And I believe that. I think that that's one of the reasons why I just try to serve everybody I interact with, because I never know when I might need them. Usually I don't, but it's just a good policy.
For sure. And then when you do, and you don't, just needing somebody doesn't mean you need them in a crisis. Sometimes you just need a favor. You need an
Or just
introduction.
hey, make an introduction for me, because I know you're connected to this person, and I would love to build a relationship with them. Yeah, that's exactly.
For sure. All right. Well, what's your parting thought? What is the biggest thing you want to accomplish for 2026? And what help do you need?
Well, for us, we are building this, fluentcircle.com, this high level executive network. And we're always looking for, this again may be no surprise based on this conversation. You already know this about me as well, but your audience may not. We're looking for primary decision makers who are doing, a certain amount of annual revenue, under 20 million, especially those over 20 million. And of all of the primary decision makers that are running those types of organizations, those that we especially want to know and really serve and help are the ones that have a give, serve, abundance mindset. When we get really good people to come together that just happen to be running very successful organizations, there's always magic that happens when we keep out the ego and the posturing and the positioning and the insecurity kind of stuff, and we just say, look, we're just good people trying to figure out how to help each other. Deal flow, solutions. You talk about doors. There's a lot of doors that get open to some really big things when we put these events together and this network together and we go through these experiences. And so I would just invite, if there's anybody listening that has an interest that knows you, they ought to talk to you. And if they would be a fit for us, please make an introduction. We'd love to get to know them, start to build the relationship and filter, are they a fit? Usually if they're not, we'll try to find a home where they're really going to benefit. And that's part of our model, is to connect them with for free, anybody that would be a really good solution or another good group, even if they may not be a fit for ours. So we have a lot of relationships with a lot of mastermind groups all across the US, and we constantly place people in those other organizations as well as looking for our own people. So however we can help, we're more than happy to.
Yes. And I can vouch for John and his generosity. He's a giver. It's part of his nature. It tends to be his default response. And, we've known each other for a little bit, not a ton of time yet, but in our first engagement together, we were planning on coming to an event that he had in Northern California that ended up not happening. And he reached out and said, hey, I've got this hotel that needs to be used, conference room paid for. All you got to do is show up. And we invited some clients, had our own little boardroom experience event, and it was compliments of John Bailey and the Fluent Circle. And not that that's what's going to happen for you when you meet him, but but just proximity is everything. I'm a huge component. Yes, it's good to have tactical alignment if the things that you want to learn from people. More often than not, the deciding factor as to who I engage with and who I get into inner circles with or invest with is all about who the person is.
Yeah.
Far more than what they know, because I know if that kind of person knows other people also that are equally to the task. And so I can't endorse John and Fluent Circle more. So definitely check him out in the show notes, connect with him, hook up with him on social, tell him we said hello, and let me know what happens.
Yeah, love it. And for those that may because once this podcast gets published, we'll promote it and on our stuff, and those that need strategic sales help. Jim has been really fun. I've not used him yet. We would love to in the future as we grow, but he's really good at what he does. He has a lot of impact for good with the clients that they help. So we're excited. We could easily endorse you as well. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. So there's another episode of Legacy Without Limits. And just take a piece, take what's flowing in here. What are the messages that you're hearing? Because again, I intentionally left tactics and strategy out of this whole podcast series because it's not about the stuff that you do. It's about who you're becoming, and who you're becoming attracts other people who are becoming. And that's how we change the world. It's about joining arms, aligning with the right people, and lifting the limits on what's possible. And so keep tuning in. Let me know if you have somebody else that I should be sharing their story as well. And go find John and see what you can learn from him and be in his world. Go change the world, make some sales, earn some revenue, and start living a life of choice. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.